This is from September 2009.
The Holy Spirit spoke to me maybe 2 weeks ago. He said, I hate this. I said, what? Then I saw a vision of a big bug. He said, all your stuff is infested. Why are you bringing stuff from people's units in here? Didn't I tell you all things new?
The Lord also said, you've taken a wine rack from a drunk. You don't know what's on that stuff. I got the sense that he was talking about demons. He said, when you turn those speakers on, you'll see how many bugs come crawling out of them. I had taken some speakers and a wine rack and some flower pots out of a unit the day before. Anyway, I threw out all that stuff, and then I thought about who I'm allowing myself to be friends with. After the Lord said these things to me, I went bug hunting and put poison down and threw out the different things I had picked out of the things that people left for trash. Okay, so this was something that God spoke to me when I used to work at public storage. People would use the dumpster to throw items away that they didn't want to take with them. You know, it happened all the time. People would be moving out of their units and, you know, who knows? They just would be like, I don't want to load not one more thing on this truck. Or they were like, you know what? This ain't even going to fit at the new place, whatever. So it would be all kinds of things left in the dumpster. And so I would go and look, and if there was anything that I could refurbish or, you know, paint or stain or fix or whatever and sell it, that's what I would do. That was my little side hustle. I was, you know, divorced single mom, and I would just do little things like that so that I could have enough extra, you know, money to take better care of my son, because that's just what I would do. Okay, so anyway, sometimes if I saw something that I liked for myself, you know, then I would keep it. So God was getting on me about these items, right? And he didn't want me picking through the trash. He didn't want me doing that. And so he got on me about it. And then I had gotten some speakers that obviously were infested with bugs, because the public storage that I used to work at was an outdoor public storage facility. It was an outdoor storage facility. So in the outdoor storage facilities, if you don't take precautions, you're going to get bugs and stuff like that in your stuff, because it's not like it's insulated or anything like that, right? Yeah, so that was something that I didn't do it all the time, but I was starting to, you know what I mean? Like, I was starting to be like, oh, you know what? I could keep this for me. I could, you know, clean this up or do this or do that or whatever. And so God nipped that right in the bud. He was like, nope. So the lesson right here, honestly, is that demons can and do attach themselves to items, to objects. God taught me that unclean spirits, these demons, are so desperate to get into a body, anybody. They're so desperate to have a host that they will plant themselves on things that they think that somebody else will come along and pick up, and especially something that has saliva. Like if they can, saliva is a conduit, like for demons to transfer from one person to another. And I mean, that, as heavy as it is, it's real. And so God taught me that because I had picked up a demon from a family member. I went and smoked a cigarette after them, right? And their saliva was on that cigarette butt, and God told me that an unclean spirit got into me, had attached itself to that cigarette, and got into me because of the contact that I had with the saliva, right? And so drinking after people, using other people's utensils, using other people's lipstick and chapstick, certainly kissing, certainly sex, definitely. Those things break that barrier, that soul barrier, and allow demons to hop from person to person. And I really didn't understand that in depth until I went on the process of cleaning out my vessel, going through the deliverance process. And I would do the fasting and everything, and then I finished the whole fast and everything that God told me to do. And then a couple days later, I pray and ask God, is there anything to follow my spirit? And he would say yes. And I would be like, gags, like, I just got finished doing all that fasting. How could I have, an unclean spirit? And then boom, God showed me that I drank after that family member, or, took a puff of that cigarette or whatever it was, and got another demon in me. Had to fast, again, had to do it all over again to get clean, right? And I didn't mind learning, even though I tried and failed and all that kind of stuff, and I had to do it multiple times. It just really locked the lesson in for me, and so I didn't resent it, and I wasn't mad at it, and God wasn't mad at me either. God was like, you're doing better than you think you are, Brandy. Just keep going. You got a lot to learn about this spiritual stuff, so don't beat yourself up. You learn it as you go, and it's okay, right? Yeah, so that's the major lesson in this one right here, that unclean spirits, because God was like, you took a wine rack from a drunk, and you don't know what is on that stuff, and I didn't know the person that who left those items by the dumpster. I had, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know them. I didn't know their history. I didn't know what kind of lives they lived. All I saw was a cute wine rack that I thought, I was like, oh, that's cute. I could do this. I could clean that up and do that and put that there. And it was a whole demon on it. And God didn't want, a spirit of alcohol getting a hold to me, because who knows what problems that would have opened the door to, right? Okay, so and speaking of bugs, since part of this lesson I had to deal with a bug infestation. It was roaches. That apartment that I got, that free apartment that I got from public storage, it was infested with roaches, and I had to go to war. And let me tell you, I'm gonna give you a little secret, because I found this out and I never ever had to battle with roaches ever again. And I'm saying this because I have no idea who you are, where you are, how your life is, but not, not everybody lives at 444 King Street. Not everybody's living in a palace. So if you ever find yourself dealing with a roach infestation, and I'm talking about those regular common roaches that are just so hard to deal with, if you've ever battled them, the thing that I found that gets rid of them and they are gone for like 2 years. I put this stuff down one time and then I don't have to worry about it again for 2 years. It works wonderful, but you have to be careful with it. This is not a paid promotion. I am just spreading information, because who wants to live with roaches? They're disgusting. So anyway, Ortho Fire Ant Killer in the brown bottle with the yellow cap. I don't use the spray. I use the powder. And I take that powder, I take a pencil, the tip of a pencil, and just poke a hole in the paper cap. You do not want to just take that cap off. That stuff stinks. It smells horrible. But let me tell you, put that stuff down and let it sit for just like 2 weeks. I don't care how bad your infestation is. That stuff, it works. I worked for an apartment complex. I'm just going to give a quick testimony on how good this stuff works. I worked for an apartment complex, and they had a whole building that was overrun with roaches, and they would still rent those apartments out. We knew it had roaches in it, and the apartment manager kept calling for the pest control, but the pest control was not working. And so one day she was at her wit's end, and I told her about Ortho Fire Ant Killer, and I told her, let me just go in and do one apartment and you'll see, right? And I went in, and one of the apartments in that disgusting building, one of the worst apartments, like, you would open the front door, you would have to turn the knob and then push the door open and jump back, because roaches would fall on you. As soon as you open the door, they were all in the door frame. They were crawling all over the ceiling, crawling all over the walls, in and out of the vents. They were everywhere. Every drawer in the kitchen, every cabinet. They were in the refrigerator. They were in everything. And I took, it was a 3-bedroom apartment. I took 3 or 4 containers of that Ortho, and I would just put a single line down around the whole perimeter of the empty apartment, and I opened up the cabinets and I opened up the drawers, and I just will put a line, at the back of each of those things. And I moved the refrigerator, put a little bit down underneath where the refrigerator is, and move the stove underneath where the stove is, all that kind of stuff. Baby, when I tell you, 2 weeks later, Nothing was crawling, nothing was moving, everything was dead that was in that apartment. And the roaches don't come back. It's like they take that ortho fire ant killer, they take it to the nest and it like kills the nest or whatever. And you can even have neighbors with roaches, and if you put that stuff down in your place, and just leave it down until you don't see any more roaches alive, because like once you put it down every day, you're gonna have to be sweeping up all these little dead roaches, right? And so like there's, after about 2 weeks, you're gonna come out and there's not gonna be any more little dead roaches anymore. So that's how you know it's all done. And then you can sweep up, then you can go ahead and vacuum up all the ortho and, you know, scrub it and all that kind of stuff and get rid of it, because it does stink. It smells bad. You know, it does not smell good. So definitely use caution if you have small children and animals. I doubt if the animals will try to eat it. It smells horrible. But, you know, you definitely don't want it to endanger your children or anything like that. But I would say, I had, you know, my son, and well, my son was older, so it's not like he was going and putting stuff in his mouth, but I would just put it in places where your child can't get to. But put it down and you'll see that stuff is magic, okay? So, and look, no shame and no shade, because it's horrible to I've seen people just accept the roaches because they can't get rid of them. They don't know how to get rid of them. And, you know, it's just so yuck. You don't have to live like that. But, you know, you can't do better until you know better. So anyway, yep. Keep your house demon and roach free. All right. God bless you.